All right, y'all, I have a fun one today. And this is a bit of a special thing as well for a very good friend of mine who was interested in this particular weapon here. So, what we got is get that all in frame. This is a Cimarron made, or imported anyways, 1887 shotgun. So, lever action, right? And I say Cimarron imported because these actually are made in China. But Cimarron goes out of their way to import these, and the actual owner of Cimarron, or the president, whatever, has a whole video on the kind of the process and how he went about like importing these, and how he wasn't satisfied really with the quality of the earlier imports that were coming through. So these 1887s have been imported previously from China many times before. You'll see ones like, I think like PW Arms was another importer of these at a time, and they were known for being not great. So the president of Cimarron decided he was going to improve that. So he basically told the manufacturer over in China, hey, make them a little bit better, That's that way they're actually worth something. So this is one of the more recent batches that have come in. And I got this really because I've been interested in these things myself, for a little while, because it's like one of the only like lever action shotguns. I think maybe the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. It being featured in New Vegas and Terminator, right? Some other media and everything. Lever action shotgun is 1887 specifically is pretty famous for a few reasons. So I've kind of wanted to try it just to see what it's like. And of course, there's all kinds of history behind this too, with John Moses Browning working with Winchester, and they said, hey, we need a shotgun, but lever actions are kind of our thing. So Mr. Browning, can you come up with something? And he's like, well, I don't really want to, but he did anyways. And of course, he made this. So but my good friend there, he was always interested in these as well, because the shotgun also features in BioShock Infinite as the shotgun in the game. And it's one of the main armaments that the main character Booker DeWitt uses, right? So it's got that kind of media tie-in. For me, it was more New Vegas and seeing the lever action shotgun in there. Although that one's slightly anachronistic because it's in 20 gauge, and of course they chop the whole stock off here, so it's just a grip, and they chop the barrel and the tube down too, so it's like a really, really small, basically this kind of size little handy 20 gauge shotgun, which doesn't exist in real life, unfortunately. I think a 20 gauge out of this would actually be pretty pleasant to shoot, but this one's in 12 gauge, of course. But so that's really a lot of the reasons why I wanted to try it and get one for myself. And I think this will serve my friend very well when he does get it. So anyway, I really did want to also try it myself and make sure that this was good to go, and then it wasn't one of those crappy imports from a while back, to where it doesn't function all that well, and they're not very nice, and it's just if I'm gonna give something to someone, I kind of want it to be nice and to actually work, right? What a novel idea. So figured I'd knock out two birds at one stone, kind of give this a shot and see how it works, and then if it all works out, send it off to my buddy, and he's got a nice gift there. So anyway, this particular version is the 20-inch barrel Terminator. They call it the Terminator, and I think it's because of inspiration, of course, from Terminator, because Arnie is walking around with his lever action shotgun, which looks absolutely minuscule in his hands, but of course he's a gigantic person compared to me. So the shotgun is quite a bit bigger in my hands. I have tried to do the flip cock. I tried it only once because it doesn't work too well with stock, and I'm not Arnie, so don't recommend that. But you have to try it at least once, So as far as the overall fit and finish, so I would say it is okay. Like you're not going to get a really nice, kind of rich bluing color case hardened, anything like that. The finish on this is kind of like I'm not going to say like a parkerized, but it's like a really matte black kind of finish. And you can kind of tell here, it kind of retains oil just a little bit. It really does remind me a lot of parkerization, but I don't think it is parkerization. Because if you've held like Rock Island Armory 1911s, like that's some big parkerization right there. And this doesn't really feel like that. It's like more smooth. And then of course you have your nice little Cimarron Firearms logo there, which was this is a homage, of course, to the original engravings on the side of the receiver there. So that's a nice touch. That's pretty cool. But I will say the action on this is smoother than I anticipated, but it's also rougher than I thought it was going to be, because when you really get into the inner workings of this thing, it's complicated and not complicated at the same time. So there's a great video actually by Arsenal on the 1887, which if you really want all the nitty-gritty details on how this action works and the whole history behind it and everything, highly recommend watching Arsenal's video on the 1887 to really get a true understanding of how this internal mechanism works. And that's why I say it's complicated, but it's not complicated, because I watched that whole video probably twice, 3 times now, to really get an idea of just how this works and why I was encountering the issues that I was. And it's no fault of the gun itself. It's just how it's designed. So, yeah, the action is definitely, it's interesting. It takes some getting used to. And when a lot of the other video reviews out there say you really have to like manhandle this action and you have to not be gentle with it, they absolutely mean it. And that was my experience as well, trying to operate this and get it to work smoothly. You really got to manhandle the heck out of this thing. So the manual of arms. So the lifter mechanism in here, it's kind of hard to see really, but basically the way it works is there's a lifter mechanism in here that goes up and down, and when it's down, the shells eject from the magazine tube here into the bottom of the lifter. So when you put the lever all the way forward, the lifter pops up that has the shell on it, and then when you close it, the bolt here will close, and you're ready to go. So in order to load this, though, you have to push the lifter all the way down, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a lapel action, where you have to push it down to feed the cartridges into the tube here in the bottom. And normally in theory it's not really a huge issue, but what I found is if you're wearing gloves, this becomes almost impossible to do if you have a standard like 2 3/4 inch shell, which is all this is chambered for. If you're trying to get your fingers in there, like that, let's see if I can get a good it's hard to get a good view, but anyway, that's really all the room that you have in there. It's really not all that much to get that shell in there. And then of course, if you're trying to load it up like this, it's not happening. So I typically find I have to hold it at an angle kind of down like this to help gravity, or have gravity help me, if I can talk, to kind of put those shells in. And it's a little difficult to load sometimes, depending on where that lifter is at, because it's not like, this is not held or retained by anything. It's just kind of loosey-goosey like this. And so if you have gloves, there's absolutely no way you're going to get your thumb in there to push that shell all the way in. It's just not happening. And then if you have to, if you think, okay, well, maybe I angle it in a little bit, you can't do that either. If you try to put it in at an angle, the whole thing binds up, and it really does not like that very much. So, but yeah, once the lifter goes up, and you can push it down, push it back down, you can hear the shell click into the lifter, and then of course it pops up right there on top, and then you close it up and you're good to go. Triggers on these, nothing to write home about. I wouldn't say it's anywhere near as nice as like a 1892 lever action, those kinds of things, but it's not bad either. It's perfectly serviceable. Now, the other thing that is a kind of an interesting quirk about how this thing works. So this has the dual extractors, and the way the ejection of the shell works is that it relies on the lifter and the mass of the shell in the lifter to basically push this shell up and out. Now the reason why that's important is because if you have it like this, where I just opened it real slow, it's not going to come out of the gun, right? So let me get that out of here. So we got one here in the bottom. Now if it's like that, I find I kind of have to jiggle the lever a little bit, and there you go, it comes out on top. So you may have that sometimes where it doesn't quite want to move the lifter up, so I find I have to jiggle the lever a little bit until the lifter does come up, and then you can feed. So a lot of little things you have to get used to. Manual of arms with this kind of specifically this gun, and I would say it's fiddly. It's very fiddly. So if you don't have a whole lot of practice, and I know there's a lot of guys out there that shoot these in like cowboy action shooting and things like that, they're really, really good at these things. But I can absolutely see why someone would say they would prefer a conventional pump action shotgun over this, even though this is a repeating shotgun. It's just fiddly, man. Like the amount of room that you have in this receiver to push shells into the tube here is a whole lot less than like your conventional actions where you just turn the gun over and you just shove shells into the port, right? So it's fiddly. And of course so the half cock on this as well, if you can even call it that. So right now we're at full cock. The half cock I really don't like all that much because it's kind of hard to get to. So the hammer here, the hammer and the spur here has to be that small in order to clear the whole the receiver mechanism and everything. It has to be small. So it's not like your other lever actions where you could have like a big thumbable hammer, right, with extensions and things on like that on it. You can't do it with this gun. So if you want to lower the hammer manually, you have to be very, very careful, and you really, really have to push your thumb right down on it to maintain control of that hammer. And the half cock is very, very short. We're at half cock right now, and as you can see, it's very, very short compared to the full cock. And I find it very difficult to put that in full cock as well from the half cock position. So it's not the most, I would say, quickest to deploy gun, and I would not carry it with a round of the chamber with the hammer all the way down like that. Because as far as I know, there's no real like firing pin safety or anything like that in the bolt face, so I would not carry it like that. So it is manual of arms, very fiddly, definitely different. So if you like different, if you like something like just plain different from everything else, this is probably right up your alley. But as far as practical defensive purposes go, or even sporting purposes, I can definitely see why these things really did not take off as much as like your conventional pump actions, because nothing inherently wrong with the design. It's just fiddly and it's not as practical. So, but yeah, still fun. Although I definitely encountered some issues when shooting this. So, and again, it's no fault of the manufacturing. It's just the nature inherent to this design, right? So the most common thing I would get is, even though I would manhandle the heck out of this action when I was shooting, I would very regularly get slugs, or not slugs, I was shooting slugs, but I would get shells that would get stuck. Let me see if I can replicate this. Basically, they would get stuck kind of like this. See if I can do this right. It would get stuck in the extractors about like that. So right when I open up the lever, boom, they get stuck like that, and I have to manually fish the thing out and toss it. And then usually I have to jiggle the lever a little bit to get the shell to pop up into the lifter so I can shoot the next one. Kind of annoying. It didn't happen all the time, and it really did depend on the particular shell I was shooting as well. Because again, like I mentioned, the ejection is partially reliant on the weight and force of the shell at the lifter pushing the expend shell out of the gun. So the heavier load you have, of course, that's more weight and more power that is pushing up, more force that's pushing up on that spent shell to push it out of the action. So I didn't have any issues with like slugs or like Magnum buckshot, like 12 pellet, 15 pellet, whatever. No issues there. But like your lighter loads, like your birdshot and things like that, it did not want to cooperate. It just always get stuck right here, and then I have to fish it out and toss it and just go to the next one. As well, mini shells absolutely do not work in these, which is unfortunate. I kind of hoped that they would. But the problem with the mini shells was, one, not only was it the ejection, because mini shells obviously don't have as much weight behind them as full power shells do, but also too, when you close the lever up, what would happen is, get another shell real quick, just so I can demonstrate. So what would happen is, you got your shells lined up in the tube like this, right? So when you close the lever, one shell will pop out into the lifter, normally. With a full-length shell like this, it'll work just fine. But with the shorties, what happens is it doesn't stop, so it ejects 2 of them. But the problem is the length of the mini shells is such that it gets, basically it goes out to 1.5 regular length shells. So you'll have it in the lifter where one mini shell is completely out, and then halfway of the second shell is stuck in the tube and the lifter mechanism. So the whole thing just jams up super bad. And so you got to get in there with your fingers, you got to open it up, and you got to, again, jiggle the lever just right to get one shell to pop up on the lifter, or you just shove all the mini shells back into the action, and then very carefully try to just put 1 or 2 in there. But yeah, I had no luck running mini shells throughout the magazine tube, so I opted to just take single loads and put it directly into the chamber and try to do it that way. Now, unfortunately, the other problem with running shells one by one like that directly into the chamber is also the lifter ears. So in the mechanism here, you can see, maybe you can see, these 2 bars here. There's one here and there's one there. Those 2 bars hold the shell in place when the lifter comes up, so that way the shell doesn't just fly out of the gun, right? When those are in place, it becomes very difficult to take your shell and put it into the chamber. And you can see right now, it's actually caught up, the rim of the shell is caught up on those wings. So what I've had to do is basically manually load it onto the lifter like that, and then close the action and shoot that way. Very rarely was I ever able to get it to work in such a way where the lifter wings were down as they are now, and to be able to put your shell directly into the chamber. And of course you have to use gravity to help you, otherwise it won't stay in. And then of course closing the action on top of that. You can do that. Some people would say that it puts a lot of wear or stress on your extractors, and that may be true, but I don't think you're going to be shooting a fire through this gun where that will matter. But anyway, so there's that. But yeah, it's just more fiddly things you have to do to get this gun to work the way you want it to. So unfortunately, yeah, mini shells do not work in this. But yeah, single loading is also a bit of a hassle, definitely compared to a pump action, where pump action, you just open it up, drop the shell in the in the receiver, and close it, and you're good to go. This requires definitely a little more care and attention, and if you're trying to be fast with it, well, that may be a detriment to you. Now, I have seen some techniques where cowboy action shooters will take 2 shells, kind of like this, and they'll open it up and they'll just, jam both of them into the gun and try it that way. But I honestly didn't have a whole lot of success doing that. I'm definitely not right now. So your mileage may vary. I know they have special modifications to make them better at that kind of thing, but I wasn't interested in doing that, and I wanted to keep this as stock as possible because I wanted just the stock 1887 experience, and boy did I get it. So as far as like shooting experience, recoil, this thing kicks like crazy. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know it's a 12 gauge, but big heavy steel gun like this with steel. This is a steel butt plate, it's not plastic. That's a nice touch. That firing full power slugs, buckshot, whatever, right? Just beat the absolute piss out of me. So I had to wear a nice recoil pad for that. I did order a little limb saver thing to go on the end of it, and that did help ultimately. But yeah, this thing will rock your world. As far as patterning and accuracy, so the buckshot I tried out of it was I had some 12 pellet Magnum buckshot, and then I had some the military Winchester, so like the steel case green shells that are like 9 pellet buckshot, double aught buckshot. So with that, the buckshot patterned at about 8 inches wide, 8-inch circle at about 10 yards, so about 16 inch pattern at 20 yards, which is perfectly acceptable for defensive purposes. At the distances they should be engaging with buckshot at, that's perfectly fine. For slugs, so the because it is smooth bore, of course. I tried regular Foster slugs, mini slugs, all of them seemed to print a little high at 25 yards, but I mean I was getting the same hole and hole accuracy with this gun if I did my part, which was pretty impressive kind of think about, because the only sights you have on this are the gold bead up here, or the brass bead up here at the front, and then a very small little trough trench here you can see, which actually does help line up your front sight. Gives you just the tiniest reference point to kind of line up where you want to hit. So that's a nice feature. But yeah, I'd say accuracy was very good with slugs, perfectly acceptable. I mean, you could probably take this thing out 50, 100 yards with slugs, no problem. The buckshot pattern, of course, I mean, that's really up to you what you want to do with that. But if someone had to use this for defensive purposes with buckshot, there'd be no problem with it at all, I don't think. So at least in that way, this can do practical shotgun things. I just don't think it does anything practically better than your modern pump action shotgun. So like your Mossberg Maverick 88, will probably do just as well on everything you need a shotgun to do as this gun, and probably even better in some ways. It costs way less too. But then again, also too, your modern pump actions are boring, and everybody has one, and they're not. They don't have quite the history and just the overall like cool factor that one of these things do. So all that being said, I mean, I think my experience has pretty much been pretty standard as far as you might see other videos and you'll see people out there like, oh, I love this gun and everything, it's great. I think it's just okay, and it's no fault through the manufacturers of this gun, the dudes in China. Cimarron importing these, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. Like mechanically speaking, like all the parts, everything on here, I think this is going to hold up just fine. I think it's a quality piece. I just think all the problems I did have with it are inherent to the 1887 design, and I think Mr. Browning also knew that too. So I don't think he was particularly thrilled with this design. But you know what? For what it is, it's still pretty cool. And it's definitely unique because you just don't see lever action shotguns hardly at all, and maybe there's a reason for that, because this just kind of don't work that well. But yeah, still a cool piece. These are very, very reasonably priced, I think, for what you're getting. I mean, I'm overall, like I said, I'm impressed with the level of quality here, and the fact that it did work as well as it did, and it wasn't a hunk of junk, like those early Chinese imports were. I mean, this is a Chinese import, but you know what I mean. I think Cimarron did a really good job, and kudos to the president of Cimarron for being personable on his videos and talking about the 1887 specifically and getting these things into the country and stuff. And there's just it's a cool piece. It's a cool piece for practical purposes. No, I mean I kind of view this in the same way that I would like maybe my old Milsurp bolt actions and stuff. Like, could I press it into service to do things? Yeah. Would I want to when I have more modern options available for practical purposes and situations? No, not at all. So, but I just started thinking, like, what if somebody made like some modernizations to this, where they had like M-lock slot handguard and like a pick rail up here or something, put a red dot on it or some crazy modern tactical stuff with this, that'd be kind of cool to see, just almost like a trench rat kind of little project thing to do. There probably is somebody out there doing something like that, but that'd be kind of cool. I mean, we're doing that to everything else, right? I mean, you see lever actions out there with crazy modern tactical setups and stuff, so why not this too, right? But anyway, so yeah, I figured to bring this to you guys because, like I said, this was kind of a curiosity for me and a good close personal friend of mine. He's always wanted one of these, and so I figured, you know what, let's just do Christmas early, you know, surprise him with something that he's wanted for quite a long time, and you know, with all the stuff going on with him and everything, you know, he just doesn't quite have the means to have the kind of discretionary income that he would like. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there. I've certainly been there, so I get it, you know. But yeah, this is a cool piece. Honestly, I think they're very reasonably priced for what you get, and the fun factor, I will say, it is fun. It is fun. There's certainly nothing else like it. It'll beat the crap out of your shoulder, for sure. But you know, it's just cool, man. It's just cool. So anyway, kudos to Cimarron for importing these and really bringing up the quality on these things, because I have seen the earlier imports and those things were ratty. They were bad. So this is a cool, nice piece, and I'm glad that they're doing what they do. So definitely looking forward to more Cimarron products, you know, because I've been turned on now by them. So one good turn deserves another, right? So anyway, yeah, that's my review on this, and cool. We'll see you next time.